There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this Roundup edition of Recruiting Future. If you've not listened to Roundup before, it's a review of all the interviews on Recruiting Future that have been published in the last month, so you don't miss out on all the great insights that my guests are sharing. Now, Roundup has had a bit of a summer break. We've not had a Roundup for a couple of months. So it's back, and it's back in a whole new format. So we are recording and streaming this live. And for the first time ever on Roundup, I have a guest host. Rhona, welcome to Roundup. Please introduce yourself and tell everyone about the amazing things that you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt. Yes, I am Rhona Pierce. I am a recovering recruiter, and I am the host of the Workfluencer Podcast. It's a podcast where we talk to people that are changing how we talk about work and influence and a lot of content creation and really just the new ways and the future ways that people are growing their careers and their influence at work.
Thank you, Rhona, and brilliant to have you on Roundup. Also, we co-host the All Day Hour every Monday afternoon, so you should definitely check that out. So we're kind of used to discussing interviews and the news of the day, which is why it's so great to have you on this particular episode. We're back from the summer break. If you had a summer break, and it certainly wasn't a quiet summer. There was a heck of a lot going on in the industry. We've had acquisitions, we've had new AI models being launched, all kinds of stuff. And on Recruiting Future, there were 6 interviews, really running across a diverse set of topics, but all topics that are very, very relevant to everything that's going on now in talent acquisition. So let's review them, let's talk about them, and really, if it sounds interesting, if you've not listened to them, please go and listen to them. So first up was episode 721. This was an interview with Brandon Samu, who is the Chief People Officer at Zapier. Now, there's been lots of talk about Zapier for a long time because they've been sort of quite public about creating AI skill sets, capability frameworks for their business as they kind of move towards being an AI-first business from a people perspective, and lots of debate. So I was really keen to, hear what was happening from the people who are actually, managing that change. And it's a fascinating case study in how you transform a people operation and a business to kind of really embrace AI. I think there are lots of kind of CEO mandates out there about, use automation, don't hire people, do all these kind of things, become an AI first business, but not much in terms of case studies or an instruction manual on how to do it. And that's really, what I got out of this episode. So it was a really great conversation. I know, Rhona, you've listened to this one. What were your thoughts on this particular episode?
I really loved how honest he was and how early in they were on it. I mean, it makes sense, right? They are an automation company. Of course, they were going to jump in early to the AI. But what I love that how they did it, they took the approach that I think any company, even if that's not your main business, should take. They let their people experiment, and it's okay to make mistakes, to test out things. I love how the practical examples that he gave of how it was integrated, especially into their people function. It's not just using it to replace someone's role. That's really not the point of it. It's how can we use this to our advantage to make us as employees or as a company better. And I loved that. I loved how it didn't start, they didn't go like all into it, right? They started gradually, and how it's been able to evolve throughout. So I think it's a really great episode for anyone really thinking on how to integrate AI like in a practical way into your entire organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an interesting company because they are an automation business. That's what they do. So it's kind of very much in their DNA. But I think there are enough commonalities and clues and kind of shared learnings in there to be really useful to people. And a big emphasis on the role that humans play in this as well, which is sometimes gets missed in these sort of automation conversations. So it was a really strong start to the month, and definitely would recommend listening to this one because I think it's something that every organization is going to have to go through. So something you kind of need to learn about sooner rather than later, really. So that was episode 721. Next up was 722. Again, another big topic, another case study of an organization doing something really, really interesting. So this was an interview with two people, Veronique Lacasse, who is a senior manager at Bell Canada. And she effectively looks after recruiting, onboarding, training. And in this interview, we're talking about their call center recruitment very, very specifically. She was joined by Stéphane Rivard from Hiring Branch. Hiring Branch is a platform that helps people scientifically assess soft skills. And it was just a really interesting conversation. What they're doing is they've made their assessment of soft skills scientific, because I think very often, Rhona, will be interested in your views on this in a second. In recruitment processes, these can be viewed very subjectively by recruiters. So they made it scientific. They've put it right at the top of the funnel in terms of recruiting funnel, in terms of getting that data about people. And then they use that kind of data and their performance data to actually kind of predict who's going to be a great hire for them. And they kind of run that through onboarding, training, all of that kind of stuff. The really interesting thing is they're still very much driven by human recruiters. So it's human recruiters that are making the decisions despite all of this technology. So they're being really enhanced by the technology in terms of what's going on. But the really cool thing is those recruiters can then see the outcomes of the people that they hired. So we talk a lot about quality of hire and recruitment being divorced from it because it's not able to influence it or look at the statistics. But here is a case where absolutely recruiting is playing a central part in this. Rhona, what are your thoughts on all of that? So it's so much there to talk about.
I mean, I think you know me enough to know that this is like my ideal scenario. I really think that recruiting is involved and it has a part to play in the entire life cycle of an employee. And I think many companies miss the mark because they want recruiting to be responsible for quality of hire, but they don't give them the feedback. I loved how this was all together, recruiting, onboarding, training, and they got the feedback loop. So it's like, yes, scientifically evaluating soft skills, 100%. Like you said, a lot of the ways that it's been done since forever, it's very subjective, and that's not a good way of evaluating anything, especially skills, and especially to use them to make a hiring decision. So kudos to them on how they're doing it in a scientific way. And then using that information, using that data and giving it back to recruiters so that they can improve their process at the top of funnel, to me was genius. Also a very, very good episode that I think everyone should listen to.
Yeah, 100%. And again, humans very much in the loop here, which is, obviously something that there's a huge amount of debate about at the moment. It's just great to see people kind of getting on and doing this kind of stuff and, getting these kind of case studies. So the next one, 723. This is an interview with Hazel Little, who is the CEO at a company called Career Returners. And this was all about the discrimination around resume gaps. So Career Returners works with people who have taken a gap from their career for whatever reason, and really kind of helps them and coaches them to get them back into the job market. And in the conversation, we were really kind of digging into a lot of the bias that is out there about people who've taken a career break. And also people, in the workforce who are older. There's an element of ageism in this discussion, but not kind of exclusively about ageism. Just people taking career breaks for all kinds of reasons. And I've always been just amazed by how triggering this is for some organizations and some recruiters. I mean, Rhona, is that your kind of experience? What's what goes on with career breaks?
To me, this bias with career breaks has always been one of the most ridiculous things that I've never understood. I started taking career breaks even before starting my career. I finished college and I took 6 months off because I wanted to and I could. And that's how it's been throughout my career. Anytime I've wanted to take a break for whatever reason, I've been able to do it. And when I've jumped back in, I've always been a top performer. So I've never had that bias, and I've really literally never understood it. And I've managed plenty of recruiters when I was working in corporate who, I had to sit down with them and be like, but why is this a problem that this person was out of the workforce? Something that I don't know, maybe I've worked in tech. That's where I started my career. And what you learned today and what you know today is totally different tomorrow. So who cares if you took a break for a year? You're still going to have to learn something new. That's always been my approach. And I think now this doesn't only apply to tech, but to every industry out there because of AI and because of just how everything's changing. Everything's changing every day. So who cares if you took a break to go handle personal business or do whatever you want to do? And I've never understood the whole these people are less loyal or they're less ambitious or anything like that. It's just something I've literally never been able to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is a big issue. It kind of comes up time and time again. But I think you absolutely nail it there. It's like we're living in a time where skills go out of date so quickly. It doesn't really matter anymore, does it? And I think it's, again, coming back to the sort of previous interview, it's those soft skills, those kind of innate abilities that people have. Also, the sum total of their experience of, dealing with lots of different things that's kind of really important. And I think that, what Hazel highlights in the discussion is the opportunity in this talent pool of people for employees for employers that many of them are missing out on. So definitely listen to this. Whatever your view is on resume gaps, I think you'll find it really interesting. Changing gears again. Episode 724. So in this one, we were talking about the changing face of recruitment marketing, and recruitment marketing has always been dear to my heart because that's where I started. That's where I started my career. So it's always great to have a little bit of recruitment marketing chat on the podcast. I had two guests this time. I had Kelsey Crater, who's the Chief Platform Officer at Appcast, and also Appcast's Director of Digital Media, Alexandra Horwit-Enema. Really interesting conversation, and it was all about the relationship between job boards and search and social. And really, I suppose there were a couple of things that came out of the conversation. Firstly, many companies out there, employers out there, still trying to use search and social like job boards, not looking at the unique kind of benefits that they bring, the diversity of hiring that can be done through them, but also when you're using them properly, you're looking at kind of long-term strategies. So, building pipeline over time, amplifying the employer brand, huge opportunities on those channels that recruitment's been missing out on for decades. If they've been around for probably is decades now. So it was a great conversation because I think it's just a massive missed opportunity for so many employers. Rhona, recruitment marketing, what are your thoughts on how people do it?
That's my jam. It's really what I've done for a long time. It's what my entire podcast is about, how we market many different things of our work. And we do talk a lot about recruitment marketing. And I agreed with every single thing that your guests were saying. It's true. Companies are using it the wrong way. I think somewhere along the line, someone decided that social and search was just the replacement for job boards. And in some aspects it is, but it's not an apples to apples replacement, right? It's not just posting job opening. There's so much opportunity to actually build trust and build your brand. And that's where I think people are missing the mark and where they should really focus on. And your channels, how you treat each channel is different. It's not the same exact thing as job boards. Job boards have their place, definitely 100%. I don't think they'll ever fully die, but I think that the way that you use social and search really has to be complementary to that and not a replacement. And once you make that mindset shift, it'll start working for you. And it is the long game. It's not this quick, I posted something, this is going to build my pipeline. Pipelines are built over time. And that's something that marketers in consumer marketing and B2B marketing have understood for decades. And I think it's high time that recruitment marketing starts understanding and operating under that premise.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, marketing is changing so fast. Marketing communications is changing so fast. And I think the other interesting thing, which really ties in with the work that you do, is the bit about storytelling. It's quite difficult to do storytelling on job boards, although people could do a lot better in the job postings that they do. But certainly with social, you have that opportunity to kind of tell those stories, to get that engagement. And again, I just think the impact on things like quality of hire is enormous, isn't it?
Yes, it absolutely is, because now you've been able to, in an organic way, have people self-select out and self-select in, and the people that you're attracting are truly aligned because they've come along the journey with you before they even applied to the job.
100%. So, next episode, 725. Now, this was all about neurodiversity. It was an interview with Shell Mendelsohn, who is an ADHD career coach. So it was kind of interesting because it was coming from a very different angle from some of the other episodes I've done on neurodiversity. It was really coming from the angle of, what are people with, neurodivergent conditions like ADHD? How do they need to think about work? What do they need to do? So I think there's a lot of education in there for employers, to kind of listen to and, kind of really take on board some of the things that we were talking about. There's lots of contradictions in neurodiversity. It's kind of quite difficult sometimes to categorize people and categorize people's needs. But I think the thing that came out of this for me, and any conversation I have about neuro inclusion, neurodiversity, is everyone's brain is different. And I think that steps that employers can take to make neurodivergent people feel more inclusive really kind of benefit the whole of the organization, particularly around the recruiting process, which needs a bit of a shake-up anyway, and we'll kind of maybe see that from the next interview that we're gonna talk about. So it's kind of just, I think it's just really important to listen to this and learn about what the experience for those people is like, but also, just the power of inclusion, really. I mean, how well do you think employers do on inclusion? I know that's a massively generalized question, but just give me your thoughts.
I think in general, most employers are trying, and I understand kind of why they're doing. They want to fit everyone into a box, right? And like you said, everyone thinks differently. Even neurotypical individuals think differently within each. Like, everyone is different. So when you try to create this box and try to fit everyone to it and try to adapt your processes, your hiring, your onboarding, your everything into this specific box, you're not including everyone because it's impossible. There's no box. We're humans. We're all different. And I think anytime I hear the conversation of neurodiversity and including neurodiverse applicants and candidates into your process and employees, I go back to thinking this benefits everyone, because even the people that you think your process is built for, the neurotypical individuals, are different. And some of the things that I hear, I am not neurodiverse, right? But sometimes I hear, oh, this type of accommodation is needed for people with this type of diagnosis. And I think, you know what? That would actually benefit me too.
Yeah.
And I think just organizations thinking about how to include everyone is really the path forward and the path to go. And it will, like I said, it will benefit everyone.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's just really important that people, educate themselves around this and just kind of get the different points of view and sort of really try to understand, what it's like and how challenging it can be. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes small things can just make a massive difference. And so it was an interesting conversation from that perspective. And there's a lot in this conversation as well about everything that is on the neurodiverse person, making sure that they're going to a company that's the right fit for them and doing a job that's the right fit for them. So there's a lot of kind of like self-knowledge and stuff like that. So quite an in-depth conversation and, well worth a listen. So on to the final episode in August, which was episode 726. Now, long-term listeners to the Recruiting Future podcast will know I never have favorites. I never have favorite interviewees. I never have favorite episodes. They're all equally valid as far as I'm concerned. However, if you want to listen to something that's very topical and really interesting, and if you only had time to listen to one episode out of the 6, maybe this one might be a good place to start. So episode 726, my guest was Jure Holtrop, who is an assistant professor at Tilburg University, who specializes in occupational psychology. Now, the research that he does looks at where science and the workplace meet in terms of assessment science, how it's evolving. So regular listeners to the podcast will know this is one of my favorite topics at the moment. So perhaps that's why I'm kind of calling it out. But really great conversation. We were talking about the impact of AI on how assessment's done. How we kind of really think about things. There's a bit in there about the gap between science and practice and why sometimes the science doesn't always kind of cross over into what we do, which is quite interesting. There's some stuff in there about how AI is presenting new data for the scientists, but then also causing issues in terms of, not enough time to kind of look at results of that data and all that sort of stuff. But really the key thing was all about the death of the resume and death of the interview. Rhona, I know you've got some thoughts on this. Please share them with us.
I've been advocating for the death of the resume since forever. I think this was a brilliant episode that everyone really, if you don't listen to any of the other episodes, this is one to listen to. I loved how simply he put it as, we've been using the resume wrong to begin with for a long time. We've been trying to force it to be this predictor of future performance, which it is not. And really focusing on skills and assessing skills correctly is where we need to go. The resume with AI, I mean, like it or not, now anyone can use AI to create a resume. So resumes are going to start looking the same. Everyone's going to be qualified on paper. You need to go back to what really should have been recruiting since the beginning, which is assessing skill and assessing future performance and not really focusing that much on the past. The resume should die. It really is just a way to see what the person has done in the past and where they studied, maybe if they studied. That's it. Like literally nothing else we should have ever been trying to get from a resume. And I love how simply he put it and how scientific but approachable this episode was. This episode was really one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting conversation because we were really talking about a number of things. I mean, one of them was how do we create a different process for recruiting, and it was all about moving assessment up that funnel. Technology is making it much more available to people, much kind of easier to do. But really, in the part of the conversation we were talking about candidates using AI to write their resume, is that cheating? It was just like, it doesn't matter because it's a terrible predictor anyway. We shouldn't be using them. And he kind of rightly says also that the resume is where bias first gets into the recruiting process, and then that just kind of flows through. So no matter how unbiased you feel your interviewing process is, if the bias is coming in at the early part of the process, then it'll just kind of flow on through. So yeah, really interesting. We talked about a few sort of models for the future, I think this is kind of the sort of the big debate we should be having right now in terms of sort of fixing the problem of increased numbers of candidate applications, candidates using AI, all of those kind of things, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like that's not the problem we need to be focusing on. Like the problem we need to be focusing on is the problem that we've had for decades in recruiting and in hiring, which is assessing skills. That's what we need to go back to basics and focus on that. Stop worrying about who's using AI and who's not using AI.
Absolutely. Rhona, thank you so much for your insightful thoughts and comments on this. You can find all of these episodes on Recruiting Future. So wherever you listen to podcasts, you will find it if you search for Recruiting Future. They're also all on the website. So recruitingfuture.com. You can actually run searches on the website by keywords. Everything has a transcription, so you can find all the episodes on particular topics that you are interested in. And there are currently 726 to choose from. There's a lot of stuff there. Looking forward into September, lots of great content coming up. It's also conference season, so I will be out and about. I'll be at HR Tech in a couple of weeks' time. So make sure you follow Recruiting Future wherever you follow podcasts. Thanks again, Rhona, for all your help with this episode. Much appreciated. I will be back with episode 727 of Recruiting Future very soon. Thank you very much.
This is my show.